We're back. It's We the People on WKMnews.com, the voice of liberty here in the Ohio River Valley. And anytime you want to applaud, it's perfectly okay. Again, we'd like to thank the Jefferson County Republican women for being here tonight. And I can't see what it says.
Jefferson County Republican women.
Okay, that works. It segues well with what I said. We have the Vice Chair of the Indiana State Republican Party, Misty Hollis from Richmond, and we have our own Lisa Seng Shadday, who's running for the General Assembly in the House of Representatives, the 66th District, because I pushed it so many other times, I practiced 66th. But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we've got an election in a couple weeks.
Yay!
Okay. So we always hear this every year. You know, they're expecting low turnout, this, that. I mean, what are you seeing? Is the grassroots motivated? I mean, is people going to get out? What?
I think a lot of it depends on each county you're in, because there are some counties that have really contested races and others that might not have as much. So that is a big key factor. So those that don't have, the real push to those county chairs, sometimes you get apathy, where it's like, well, I don't have much to vote for, so I don't need to go. But like this area, I know there's contested races with Senator incumbent Jim Smith, and then Lisa's running for a seat as well. And I think I just heard you have some other contested local races. So that makes a difference, makes a really, really big difference. So I think it's going to be sporadic all over the state. There is, I can't remember her number, but Erin Houchin, some of you are familiar with, she's running for state senate in a contested seat as well, and that's that's going to be a hot and heavy race to look at in the southern area. That a lot of attention is being given to. So from a state perspective, it really just depends on where you are and which county you're in to see. But our job, and I think it's coming through this area, from the state standpoint of our statewide elected office holders, and they're Connie Lawson, Suzanne Crouch running for auditor, and then Kelly Mitchell for treasurer, a bus tour. Is a bus tour coming through this area? Do we know?
Close.
Okay. Okay, so they will be on a bus tour for the entire state, and hoping that's going to energize people to understand there is a top ticket to this race as well. And I want to talk about that a little bit, Rick, because I think it's important people understand that the importance of us electing a Republican Secretary of State. In your county, in your county, I'm assuming that you have the inspectors for your vote centers and your precincts, and I want to tell you why that's important. Connie Lawson, who's our current Secretary of State running again, she has fought fearlessly about voter fraud. And for the Republicans to hold the inspector's seat on election day, that is the person that ensures the election day is happening following all the rules, that laws are being abided by, and so it's from our perspective, ensuring that every county still has the rule of the inspectors is critical. The only way that happens is if we get the majority vote for Connie Lawson, the Republican candidate. And so she has got to be that voted on and elected in your county. It's pretty critical for us to make that happen. I went your direction because I know how passionate you are about voter fraud.
I just relayed anecdotally what I heard from a friend who was talking to a Democrat, who was basically saying, why can't you Republicans get your act together as far as absentee ballots? We're starting 2,000 votes ahead of you. That scares me. That is scary. That's, 30s Germany kind of scary type of thing to be. They're either blowing off or they got aces over deuces, and I don't like that kind of aces over deuces, and that's wrong. And we're trying to get Connie Lawson to do a show as well.
She's very passionate, and under her leadership, there's definitely been people that have been convicted because of that. And Jennings County is the most recent case that Mark Hollinger, as the county chairman, has just fought to make sure that the voters' rights is not taken away. I mean, when we have voter fraud, it's taking away from other voters that are doing it right. And so we can't afford for that to happen. And so having somebody fighting for that is important.
Well, that guy that went to jail, I think he worked for your opponent, did he not, at some point in time? You can't say anything. But
Well, I think that, you know what, not wanting voter fraud to occur, that's a Hoosier moral standard. I don't like to have that affiliated with any party. So I would say that any voter, any Hoosier does not want voter fraud. And so I would just hope that they get out and vote so that their voice is heard, because the more people that come out to vote, the lower the chances of them being successful if they are attempting any voter fraud. What was that wonderful phrase this brilliant man said one time? If it's not close, they can't cheat.
Was that Rick? Was that Rick?
Oh, another brilliant man.
Oh, okay.
we did that on the radio
You did that on the radio?
in 2012, and that was on 10. I was very proud of that. We did 10 radio ads a day from Labor Day on to Election Day on 2 radio stations. And the bottom line is, if it's not close, they can't cheat, because that's right, and that's the way it's supposed to happen.
And everyone should want that.
Everyone
should want that.
That is the high moral standard that we should have. You shouldn't cheat. That's what we teach our kids.
But what's interesting is there's people watching us right now that will say, well, that's paranoia, or that's ridiculous that you're concerned about voter fraud, etc. But then at the same time, every time a voter ID law, nationally speaking, is brought up, someone's screaming discrimination and all these things. So they're against some of these safeguards for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, in the state of Indiana, that's where we're trying to get Connie on too, and we almost got her at the Fry picnic, but she had a granddaughter's birthday that took precedence over what we were doing. Got it. But
Is
as
the
far
show
as
going to be all about you? I'm just curious.
she would say, but a big part of that. But that voter ID, that's very important to show that, because you show it every time you travel, every time you do a bank transaction, and so. What do you think about voter ID?
I love it. I love it. If you're asking me, sure, because you're going to get on a plane, you need an ID. If you go to the bank to cash a check, you need an ID. If you go to the pharmacy to get a decongestant, you've got to show an ID. So to secure proper voting, levels of accuracy, what's wrong with that?
And I do believe, when the opponent running against Connie Lawson, when she gave her speech, when she decided to run, that was one of the things she said she wanted to do away with, was banning voter ID. So to have the chief election officer that's running on that cause is kind of interesting, I would say. And disappointing, but interesting too.
Or scary?
Yeah, well, I'll let you use that word.
Okay.
I'll let you use that word. So again, it's from the standpoint of the voter turnout, I think that's why it's important. Everybody that's in this room, if you just tell 10 people, don't forget to vote. Think about what that multiplies.
Amen.
And what that can happen. And so it's reminding people when to vote, where to vote. That's very critical.
And this is going to run before the election. We timed it right. But a question I asked you early on, your opponent happened to miss the General Assembly on a couple times. He equated it to the filibuster rule in the United States Senate. Well, there's no such rule in the General Assembly. The fact of the matter that I gave was I worked in the hospital here for 34 years. I'm very well regarded most of the times by my patients, a bunch of the times. But if I just don't show up for work, they're going to fire me. Now, your opponent didn't show up not only 1 year, but he didn't show up another year. Now, will you show up for work if you're elected?
Yes, that's why I'm being hired. And it is to get in there and do your job.
Just go back to you.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that top ticket that you talked about at the
Yes,
state a
be
little
happy
bit more?
to.
Some of the other candidates that's running.
Yeah. So Connie Lawson is running for Secretary of State. She's been in the office. She was appointed by Governor Daniels. She's done a phenomenal job. She had a goal when she first came into office to get into all 92 counties in the state of Indiana. She did it. She thought, well, let me just do that again. So she said again. And she is just an amazing worker. Not only has she just done what's expected of her, but she also has expanded services in her office as well. We have Suzanne Crouch, who's running for state auditor, and just in her short time of being in that position and being appointed, she has actually made that office more transparent. More information every day is being added online so that we can see how our money is being used and the way that it's being used through the auditor's office. Kelly Mitchell, she's worked in the treasurer's office, I think, 9 years. So she has a tremendous amount of history and knowledge base of what it takes to be in that office and to ensure that she's protecting our money as well. We're really excited about the ticket, really excited about what all three ladies will bring to the leadership of the state of Indiana. And again, it's about getting out to vote. That's what it's about.
Both of you, speaking of Suzanne Crouch, she was talking about basically putting the state of Indiana's checkbook online. Mm-hmm. So an expenditure is made, you know what it's for. And I think they're making similar things down here in the city of Madison. I have a question though. Is it not desirable, because I think it is, that the state of Indiana...
It looks that's all about you.
The state of Indiana inventory all real estate, all property that the state of Indiana owns. Because I get a little bit miffed when I go up, Big Doe Run, and there's some state land up there. Where's the state? I don't know why the state land has up there. We got state forest and all that stuff. I know we're in surplus right now, but I'm sitting there going, why not, sell some of this stuff to people that might want to buy it and might want to develop it or do something with it or make it some kind of private reserve.
Tell you what, when Lisa is elected, why don't you schedule a meeting with her and talk to her about that?
Are you wanting to make a bid on like the state capitol? Is that what you're wanting to buy?
No, that's
Just re-elected, you may talk to them too. I think it's a great idea.
And I've never known you to be slightly miffed, by the way.
Okay, but the city of Madison was going to buy a piece of property. Why? Because it was a good deal. I don't believe the government should be involved unless there's a good reason to buy that property. Yeah, it's a.
Do you have a question?
There was a question. Is it a good idea for the state of Indiana to buy any more land?
But it's a crime what the reason is. I mean, I don't think that you can just pitch a whole every answer into one thing there.
Okay. Never mind, I'll pass.
Why do you, okay.
It wasn't going anyplace, I mean.
All right, well, what's your next question? We know you like to talk, but what's your question?
Regulations.
Okay.
Is it the purview of the General Assembly to review regulations, or where is that? And I really don't know the answer to that question. I mean, it seems like some of it comes out from underneath the governor, from the executive, but it should not the legislative review regulations. Because you were talking about
like the EPA changing the regulations all the time at IKE?
Well, that EPA you don't have anything to do with, but
right.
IDEM you do, which is the environmental management part. But as far as the regulations, where they come through, the General Assembly should have some kind of advice and consent role, and I don't know if they do.
If I had been there 14 years, I could probably give you a better answer.
Okay. It's one of those things, but I think that there's a germinal idea there, and my elbow hit too hard.
Going back to
Listen, we're ready for you, bud.
Going back to
Rescue Rick.
Going back to the election, okay? So we sit here, we've tried to paint a picture, I think, for folks on why it's so important to get out. You've got Secretary of State. I think that was really great information. That she controls that a lot of that voter fraud and things of that nature. What do you have to say to people though? I mean, what can they do aside from vote? What can they do to get out and help?
Well, like I said, if it's just the fact of you deciding today, I'm going to leave here and tell 10 people, make a little list, 10 people that say, don't forget to vote. We were doing phone banking the other night in Wayne County, and I was amazed how many people said, well, I'll vote if I could get there. And so then that becomes important of making sure that somebody's taking them to the polls or getting them an absentee ballot if they need that, and working with a clerk, your local clerk's office to make that happen. So that's number one. I mean, word of mouth is the best way to get it done, and giving any assistance. Besides that, then your local county promotions. Each candidate is doing their door-to-door campaign. I think you'd be amazed. You've probably been amazed how many people go. It's an election year, and there's. I mean, it's still shocking. You know, there's an election this year, so with signs everywhere. So people have lives, and they go on with their life, and so sometimes election isn't the first thing they think of when they wake up, like we do. So it's important for them to see it almost 7 times. That's what they say in advertising. For somebody to see it 7 times to trigger them. And so whether it's through mail, whether it's through phone call, whether it's through word of mouth, but the ability to talk about just getting out to vote.
I would add to that, I would hope that everyone would get out and early vote as much as possible, and then come and volunteer to help me. Or your candidate of choice, but I would hope they would help me. But if you go early vote, your vote's already, you don't have to worry about it on election day. It's done. You can then, as I said, be there from 6 to 6, and you can help out a candidate, help take people to the polls, help make calls that day, or just there are a vast amount of opportunities for people to help out on election day and be part of the process. And it's crucial. So I would say go early vote. Maybe take someone who doesn't have a car and offer to take them to early vote down at the courthouse. And then bring them along to help you on election day. So as you can see, I've got a one-track mind there, don't I?
Under former Secretary of State Todd Rokita, who's now Congressman Todd Rokita, he created with the help of the legislature, created pilot counties that tried out vote centers. And Wayne County happened to be one of those pilot counties. With under Connie Lawson and the legislature, it's been able, each county has the right to be able to do that. And it's my understanding, or is this a vote center county?
Not yet.
Not yet. Looking at
Which
it.
one's there?
I'll just give a personal testimony for those that are thinking about it. There are some challenges that come with that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you tell what's a vote center county for the folks that don't know?
Thank you. A vote center is actually the way we vote now. The way that you'll do it this year is you have your precinct, and where you live within that precinct is where you vote. A vote center is going to allow you to vote at 6 or 7 locations, whatever your county decides it can be.
But only once.
Yes, only once. And thank you for that. That was very good. Very important. And the key to that is technology, to be honest with you. I mean, that's what's made it work in Wayne County, because you know the minute somebody's voted, if they walk into another vote center, it's already registered that they have voted, so you can't do it twice.
Exactly.
That's the key, is technology, and that the technology works. But it has allowed more flexibility for those that might work in a different location of the city or the county in which they live, and they're not able to get to their precinct in which they live to vote. That vote center allows them that freedom to be able to go and vote at those centers. So what it has done, and it's forced us to do in a county that's a vote center, is to really work hard to get out the vote. Because some people just forget they don't have a precinct anymore. And so we had a system that the precinct chair went out and told everybody it's time to vote, this is where you're voting, and it was their responsibility. And now with vote centers, we've had to refocus on how we're getting out the vote. But it has made it, I'm not saying it's for every county. You really have to look at it and see if it works for you. For Wayne County, it's been a good thing, and it has saved money too. On top of
For our viewers in Switzerland County, there are vote centers in Moorfield, East Enterprise, Patriot, and I think Pleasant. So, and it was in yesterday's paper as well.
Is that going to be their first year to do it?
I think it is.
Second year.
Okay. And I think they've done well with it.
Good.
Josh South said he would.
So we're okay.
So you're saying that you said you have to work hard to get the vote out, but yet it's designed to save money and make it more convenient.
Right.
So has anyone seen kind of what the trend is on that? I mean, has it turned out better with it?
It's about consistent for us. I mean, it hasn't dropped drastically at all. It's just been consistent. It really, it just kind of shook your system. I mean, you have a system that's been in place for a very long time. And so precinct committeeman's job is to go out to their precinct. And so now we're having to remind people, you're still a precinct committeeman, and you still need to go out to your precinct and help people and remind them where they need to vote. And so it's still, everything kind of goes back in circles, and it's how it needs to be done.
Are many of these vote centers already where they're having the voting
Yes,
locations
they're just
anyway?
larger locations. So one is in a church. It's a very, very large church, so we'll call a mega church. Community center has one. And so our fairgrounds is another voting center. So places you can put up a lot of voting machines is what you need to have it as.
So we, the people, on WKMnews.com, we're talking to Misty Hollis, Vice Chair of the State of Indiana's Republican Party, and Lisa Seng Shadday, candidate for 66th District, the House of Representatives. One of the things that I really liked about this Republican platform this year was living with our means. I think it's an ongoing thing, but with regard to, is that the eye that you're going to look at budgets and how it affects the taxpayer?
You mean I don't get to just take your charge card and go for it? Nobody gets to live like that. Yes, you're right. There's always ways to save money. There's always ways to look over, is it a good expenditure? Is it needed? I already went over the 3 things that I think are your top priority. After that, it doesn't mean we don't have needs. It just means that you look at them closely. There's a lot of ways to save money. I was able to go visit quite a few firehouses and talk to quite a few fire chiefs. And it's amazing when you just sit down and talk to them for a half hour, and they tell you what their needs are. And you just have this discussion that leads to, well, if we did this, then we could save a lot of money. One firehouse has a lot of junior firefighters. They have 3 of them right now. Now, these are young men who are going to serve us in the future. They're training now. How wonderful is that? They have 7 more kids who would love to do this. Do you know why they can't have those 7 kids doing it? Because they've got to pay the insurance on them. The state pays the workman's comp, but they're paying the insurance on their building and their fire trucks. So, yes, it would be nice for them to have more money. You would think that would be the fire chiefs who go, I just need more money. I just need more money so I can have those 7 kids. That's the easy way. This gentleman I talked to wasn't saying just give me more money. He came up with an idea of saying, well, if the state would just get all of the volunteer fire departments in one insurance group, we could purchase at a cheaper price. Everybody would save money. We're not taking money from the taxpayers, we're saving money.
That makes too much sense.
And then they can use that money to have more junior firefighters. He wasn't asking me, go up there and get me more money. He was saying, save me money so I can spend it and do more good with it. I love that. That's a Hoosier for you. That is somebody with common sense who loves their community and just wants to do more and give. And these were volunteers.
Where did you go Saturday? You're on the road a lot. Where did you go Saturday?
Saturday, I was at the Austin Firemen's Festival, and then went to Blocher to Johnson Township Fire Department. Then went to started out with a fish fry, went to another fish fry that also had chicken and pizza, and then I ended up in Lexington. It gets better. It had the pork chop dinner at the Lexington Firehouse, and then headed over to Leroy's Grocery in Lexington for the Bluegrass. And if you're ever there on Friday night, I highly recommend you go sing karaoke with them. It's awesome. Lots of great people in the communities come out. And they're all supporting these wonderful firehouses that are there to protect them. Has anybody here ever had a fire in your family? Have you ever needed the fire department? When I was a freshman, the farm next to where I grew up, well, I live on the farm next to where I grew up. When I was a freshman, our farmhouse, old, over 100 years, caught fire. I know what it's like to, need those services. And you knew those people got out of their warm beds and left their families to come and help you. I mean, they're wonderful. So that was great to go visit with all of them Saturday. Had a great time.
I hope you compile this into a pilgrimage. Final thoughts? We're wrapping up. And
we're really looking at an election coming up for the state. I think, it's very important. This top ticket, we get out and support that. We've talked here about why that's so important. What some of those offices do. They're not in the news every day, but they're very important. And you mentioned tell 10 people, right? Tell 10 people. We don't realize, people spend millions and millions of dollars on ads to do what you can do by just talking to someone. I mean, they know you, they trust you, you have credibility. So I think it's the biggest thing we learned tonight. We appreciate you coming. Appreciate our guests very much. Thanks to Harry's again. Thanks to our audience for being here.
And one more plug. State Senator Jim Smith is the conservative in this race. He didn't have an Obama sign in his yard in 2008. He didn't have an Obama sign in his yard in 2012. His opponent did. I think that says something. And one thing I want to recognize is a candidate for county office here. You want to stand up and give your name?
I'm Sherry Evelyn, and I'm the Madison County Auditor.
Fantastic.
Thank you all for being here. God bless you, our audience, and God bless this, our beloved country.
Amen.